There's always more to learn, isn't there? You know, there are those things that maybe we wish we had learned in school and we had to learn later in the School of Hard Knocks. But then there are also those things that we have to learn from the School of Hard Knocks, and if we look at it fair and square, we probably say, like, I couldn't reasonably have expected to learn this in school. It would have been nice, but like, who would have known that I would have to deal with this or that situation? And it can be kind of amazing to see that people can be incredibly well educated in one area, but then be maybe one step shy of clueless in another area. So there's a certain field of theological study where one of my friends remarked that a lot of the guys who are engaged in this particular field of study have essentially what amounts to a doctorate level education in ancient Near Eastern history, but roughly the equivalent of an 8th grade Sunday school education. There's a certain lopsidedness there. And I think we run into that here in the reading from Acts of the Apostles, where we have Apollos, who is really well educated in the scriptures, who knows that Jesus is the Christ, but apparently nobody bothered to tell him about baptism. And we can be amazed by this. I don't really know how you would end up in that situation, but at the same time, we run into this in, say, the church today. We have people who are really passionate about certain teachings of the church. We have people who are really passionate about certain commandments of God. And then, you know, there seem to be other areas of the faith that they're not as well versed in, or that they've never even heard of. And that's just something that we have to deal with. At least, you know, while we're on the earth, our knowledge is never going to be perfect. There's always going to be certain things where we understand better, certain things where we don't understand as much. But that being said, I think it's important to be open to learning more, to realize that however much I might know about Jesus Christ, however much I might have studied the faith, there's always more. There's going to be more that I have to learn. And we see this with Apollos, who is willing to accept instruction from the other members of the Christian community. And we'll see in other parts of the New Testament that Apollos is no random guy. He's a big deal. He's popular. He's a powerful preacher. People like him. St. Paul likes him. St. Paul recommends him to, St. Paul doesn't give him a letter of recommendation. St. Paul urges Apollos to go to the places that already want to hear him. And yet Apollos is not perfectly educated unless he's willing to submit to the rest of the church and learn from them the rest of the way of the Lord. So perhaps this could be part of our project as we head out of the celebration of Pascha and into the rest of the liturgical year, guided by the Holy Spirit. Perhaps we could seek to study the faith in a way that perhaps we haven't before, whether that's reading the Bible or getting a copy of the Catechism of the Catholic Church and reading that. The United States bishops published a Catholic Catechism for adults a number of years ago. And there are so many resources to learn the faith. So perhaps it could be our resolution as we head into the rest of this year to really study the faith, to try and make up for the gaps in what we already know. I've been reading a couple books myself because there have been a couple of, okay, who am I kidding? There have been a whole bunch of times just since I got here that I've been like, wow, I really need to know how to deal with this situation. And I'm so glad that I have Father Frank's cell phone number, because at least once a week, I think, I'm texting him asking, how do I do my job? So let's ask the Lord for the openness to learning. Let's resolve to seek out to patch up whatever gaps there may be in our knowledge of the faith, so that we may indeed attain to the fullness of knowledge of the Son of God.